Normally, I like to do individual reviews of each one of these weapons, but I know many of you are probably farming right now inside of Onslaught, and you're probably looking at whatever role you have in front of you going, is this it? Is this the God role? By the way, if you have not checked out our guide on Onslaught, we will have that linked down below. We also did a video on builds that are the best inside of Onslaught, and they were 9 builds in total. That too is linked down below. Now, before we get too deep into individual roles, I think we need to go over the perks themselves, because some of these have changed. For instance, Master of Arms is a 15% damage bonus instead of 20%, and this lasts for 6 seconds, and its kills with any weapon improves his weapon damage for a short time. Desperate Measures, which is a new one, states that weapon final blows grant bonus damage. Melee and grenade final blows grant a larger damage bonus that can stack. Think of it like Golden Tricorn, guys. Times 1, which is 1 weapon kill, you get a 10% damage buff for 6 seconds, with a timer being refreshed on any kill. And times 2, 1 grenade or charge or even uncharged melee will activate this 20% buff. By the way, this can activate even while stowed. This too lasts for 6 seconds. And then at times 3, 2 grenade kills or 2 charged or uncharged melee kills will activate a 30% damage buff, which lasts for 6 seconds. Again, the timer can be refreshed on any kill. Now you may be looking at this going, Cross, why the hell would I use Master of Arms when I can get a 30% damage buff from Desperate Measures? Well, I guess the same could be said about Golden Tricorn. Why would you use Desperate Measures when you can get a 50% buff from Golden Tricorn? But keep in mind, it's the ease of use here. Desperate Measures has the ability to refresh its timer on any kill, and Master of Arms simply will just proc a larger damage bonus of 15% from any weapon kill. But I won't lie, guys, Desperate Measures, at least for me, it's looking to be the better perk. Just saying. Now, Magnificent Howl. The number of precision final blows before reloading affects the total rounds granted with increased range and damage. Precision final blows with Magnificent Howl active extends the effect for additional rounds. Now this stacks up to 10 times. Each stack grants 1 bullet with the 50% damage and plus 3 meters of range. Now precision kills with the buff active will add 1 stack. And yes, the buff stays active while stowed. Question we ask, does this stack with Lucky Pants? It does, but there's going to be somewhat of a workaround, and we're going to get into that when we go over Luna's Howl. Now, Micro Missile. This weapon fires a high-speed projectile in a straight line and deals reduced self-damage. You move faster with this weapon equipped. Essentially, guys, this allows for rocket jumping. People are already utilizing it for speed running, but it seems to have a similar damage profile to that of like twin fire grenade launchers. But this puts them towards the top of special GLs. Okay, so with perks out of the way, let us begin God roles for the Brave Arsenal. We're gonna start with Recluse, considering we just went over those 2 traits, both Desperate Measures and Master of Arms. First up, all of these weapons come with the origin trait Indomitability, which states that final blows grant grenade energy when playing a light subclass or melee energy when playing a dark subclass. You know, funny enough, I'm wondering how the hell this is gonna work when we have Prism. You know what I mean? I'm out here rocking the rainbow. Now, for my PvE players, there are a lot of different routes you can go. If you want to go that funnel web route, by all means, Frenzy with Feeding Frenzy, Subsistence Frenzy, you can't go wrong with that. We've got things like Destabilizing Rounds, Repulsor Brace, all in one weapon, which yes, synergizes beautifully. And then we have Desperate Measures, which we just went over. And again, what I really like about this perk is that you can continually keep refreshing that buff duration. Now, D2 Foundry says 7 seconds. I know I just said 6, but 6 to 7 seconds. In certain game modes, that's plenty of time to find another ad and start getting kills. And since so many of us are leaning into our subclasses, getting kills with our melees, getting kills with our grenades, Desperate Measures is pretty nice, guys. Now, another perk to not overlook is Surrounded. I know Surrounded, everyone's like, no, I don't want to use that. It's too hard to proc. Dude, it's an SMG. And inside of Onslaught, I literally feel surrounded all the time. All the time! We're talking a 40% damage buff that will linger for 1.5 seconds as long as I am within 8 meters of 3 enemies. Will this fall off at times? Yes. But dude, as soon as those ads pop up, boom, you got it, man. You're back to 40% more damage, which is more than even Desperate Measures. The point is, guys, you really can't go wrong here with anything. Frenzy is still really nice. I love the idea of rocking like a Repulsor Brace Frenzy roll with Gerfalcons and just running around, getting volatile off, giving myself an overshield, rinse and repeat. Now I know so many are probably saying, Cross, what about Master of Arms? You haven't even talked about this. It's 15% more damage. But keep in mind, guys, it's the same as Frenzy, and you get a ton of other benefits from Frenzy, including the reload benefits, the handling benefits. Look, I'm not saying that Frenzy is clearly better than Master of Arms, because Master of Arms does proc on other weapon kills. But I will say, had Master of Arms been 20% like it was originally, it would be a much easier major sell when it came to the God roll. Just my opinion, guys. Overall, for my PvE players, you can't go wrong, man. And I'm probably gonna keep 2 or 3 rolls. No lie. Now, for my PvP players, is Recluse as deadly as it once was? Well, I've only played a few games with it. Let me just say, I like it. I still like Recluse in this game mode. Now, perk-wise, the roll that I landed was Dynamic Sway and Tap the Trigger, and it felt phenomenal. No, there's no damage buff, but hot damn it, was it consistent. Now, I know things like Target Lock exists. Keep in mind, just like Multi-Mock, this is the same archetype. Target Lock does help, but just slightly. And man, you gotta be perfect. It allows you to get the kill in 0.67 seconds instead of 0.73 in 11 crits. You can't miss. Now, despite Target Lock really not impressing me that much, Master of Arms, I think is still a good perk inside of PvP. It's a 15% damage buff, but the main thing is that it can proc from other weapon kills. I love perks like Harmony, primarily because Harmony gives me a 20% buff, and I know Master of Arms is only a 15% buff, but I do find myself rocking double primary a lot, and having something like Master of Arms with the ability to not only proc a 15% buff on itself or on other weapon kills. Guys, I'm gonna say Ricochet rounds, Dynamic Sway, Master of Arms, and Hammer Forged Rifling with a ranged masterwork. That is what I'm gonna be looking for, guys. And we're still talking like a range of 20.34 meters, which is really impressive, especially on a lightweight. So that to me is gonna be the PvP God roll. And I know for PvE, I was being pretty flexible because there really is a ton of different things you can choose here. But PvP, guys, that's the roll that I'm gonna be locking in on. Yes, Target Lock does help, especially in your body shot TTK values. But man, when I'm running double primary, I love rocking Shiora with Harmony. Master of Arms fits that mode perfectly because not only do I get a damage buff when I get another weapon kill, but I can also proc it on myself. So yes, I know Master of Arms is not as good as it once was, but I'm still gonna find some use cases for it. Next, we have Elsie's Rifle. Let me just say, guys, this is one of the best high impact pulse rifles in the game, which by the way, this weapon is only gonna get better. Matter of fact, all of these weapons are only gonna get better, as each one of these traits will retroactively be enhanceable in the final shape. And with that being said, for my PvE players, you've got some pretty good options. You got Frenzy here. Desperado's pretty good inside of PvE. You can even do like a rewind rounds Desperado roll. Desperate Measures exist here. It is a void weapon. You can synergize it with Gerfalcons and Repulsor Brace. With that being said though, I look at this weapon more for PvP. The rolls that I am hunting include Extended Barrel, which I know some of you are probably like, Cross, why? It hurts your handling. I know. I'm gonna work around it. I'm looking for the extra recoil direction. Extended Barrel though, either high cal or ricochet rounds, Zim Moment, and Headseeker. That to me is the PvP God roll. You're talking 2 bursts all day long. You've probably already seen this weapon inside of Trials this past weekend, and for good reason. I know at the top of the list you've got Summoner, and Igneous, and Prosecutor. There's just not a lot of people that know about Elsie's, but Elsie's is disgusting. It is the no time to explain replacer. It is the Philotatic Spiral Beater. These are high impact pulse rifles that I love, but Elsie is just better. Now, I do want to try a keep away roll because keep away gives us more range. Understand the range profile that I just gave you is 36.76 meters. However, if I was to have keep away and have that active, that does bump us up to 38.04 meters. Now, this is pretty nice. There's a reason why I love keep away on Philotatic Spiral. Everything outside of 15 meters of range will grant you 10 range, 30 reload speed, and decreases that accuracy cone growth. So I actually want 2 of these. I want a Zim Moment roll with Headseeker, and I want a keep away roll. And I'm going to change things up depending on the map that I'm on. But Cross, what about Desperado? What about Kill Clip? Listen, those perks are great all day long inside of 6v6, but I like weapons that can dominate in 1v1s. And a Headseeker roll on a high impact pretty much just guarantees that you're going to get the 2 bursts. Now, one thing I do want to circle back to for my PvE players, and this is in regards to both Recluse and this weapon. Because Indomitability says that Final Blows grant grenade energy when playing a light subclass or melee energy when playing a dark subclass, this perk really does synergize beautifully with Desperate Measures. So I just want you to know, especially on Recluse, like Desperate Measures is a really nice trait. It's got a ton of ease of use. It feeds into your abilities because of the origin traits. So whether you're rocking it here on Elsie or any other weapon, I think it's a solid one across the board. Now moving on to our 3rd weapon, which is dropping this week currently, Falling Guillotine. Ah yes, we just did damage testing on this one. Guys, I'm gonna give you 2 rolls. First up, for my PvP players who are bold enough to rock this, Eager's Edge with Chain Reaction all day long. You go in, you get the sword swipe, you get an explosion procced, bada bing, bada boom. For my PvE players though, we tested the sword damage, and I mean extensively. If you remember, not that long ago, everybody thought Slammer was gonna be the best sword in the game. Turns out, it sucked. Look at this list. This was our DPS testing here on the first encounter of Warlord's Ruin. The Fallen Guillotine actually broke all of these numbers, even surpassing that of Bequest. And that is because of the role Frenzy and Surrounded. Guys, we're talking a 15% damage buff from Frenzy and a 35% damage buff from Surrounded on swords. Now, what's so crazy is that when we get in the final shape, this is going to be enhanceable, meaning Surrounded just kicked up to 41.75%. The god roll here would be Frenzy, Surrounded, Swordmaster's Guard, and Jagged Edge. Now, let me also say this. The ammo economy is very, very poor. Bequest has similar damage, pretty much matching that of Fall Guillotine, with Surrounded and Relentless Strikes. And the meta with Bequest is literally just to sit there and hit your light attacks over and over. And Fall Guillotine is pretty much the same, but I was mixing in some heavy attacks. So here's the thing. If it's a long damage phase, I'm probably still going to take Bequest. But if it's like, hey, you got plenty of ammo, you got to get in there and do a burst of damage with a sword, you can proc Surrounded. Oh, Frenzy and Surrounded all day long. Listen, guys, this shreds. It really does. And there are folks out there like Cross, I am never going to use a sword. And to those folks, Crota literally put his balls right on your face, especially during contest mode. Who knows if we're going to have a sword encounter in the final shape rate? But if we do, I want to make sure I have the best sword possible, at least for burst DPS. And that Frenzy Surrounded roll is only going to get better when it's enhanceable. As far as my other traits go, Bait and Switch, meh. Desperate Measures, meh. Sword Logic, pretty cool. I like Sword Logic. I would actually do like a Sword Logic Relentless Strike roll, or even do like a Sword Logic Chain Reaction roll if we have a means of getting back ammo. For my folks asking, what about Whirlwind Blade if we can't proc Surrounded? Absolutely. I think Whirlwind Blade is better than Bait and Switch. I have too much trouble proccing Bait and Switch. It slows things down too much on something like a sword. Yes, Bait and Switch is great for total damage, but dude, look at the damage testing here when we did Slammer. Whirlwind Blade, Relentless Strikes, and Fallen Guillotine, the OG roll, was outperforming Slammer. You tack on Whirlwind Blade with Frenzy? Absolutely, guys. Now, nothing really crazy happens with the enhanceable version of Whirlwind Blade, outside of the buff duration is being increased by 0.5 seconds. It's still going to be a 30% damage buff at the top end. For my folks that still want to use Bait and Switch though, by all means, go ahead. I just don't like it personally. Maybe if I did like a Witherhoard combo, dropped a Witherhoard shot, get another shot off my other weapon, swap to my sword. You do have 10 seconds of 30% increase there in damage, but dude, reprocking that perk, at least for me in damage phases, is just a bit awkward when using a sword. So for me, Frenzy Surrounded and Frenzy Whirlwind Blade, Swordmaster Guard, Jagged Edge, let's full send, baby. Next on the list is another weapon dropping this week. We have Edge Transit. Now, Edge Transit is a little bit different because this is going to be one of those weapons that I'm going to say, hey guys, you need the shiny version. You see, the shiny version allows you to have two traits in both the left column and the right column. Now, why is this really important on something like Edge Transit? Well, Edge Transit has both Envious Assassin and Cascade. There are some people in the community that hate swapping damage perks going into a damage phase, and I get it. It can be mildly annoying. But for me personally, I like to blow my load. And having both Envious Assassin and Cascade in the same trait column allows me to blow my load and blow it longer. You see, Envious Assassin overloads our magazine when getting kills with other weapons, and we will use that to overload our mag. And then, once fully overloaded, we will swap our traits to Cascade. And that means when we proc a couple precision hits with one of our other weapons, when we swap to our grenade launcher, you can unleash everything. Now, we've seen Cascade Point during our grenade launcher damage testing, and it puts out some mad DPS. The question is, what is the best traits to combine here? Well, no lie, Bait and Switch with Cascade Point just kind of makes sense, considering you're literally going to be dealing damage with your other weapons. So I get it. It does kind of make sense. At the same time, over an extended damage phase, Explosive Line is really easy to proc and keep procking because people are just dropping orbs and other things. Maybe there's another Well of Radiance that gets dropped down. Had Bait and Switch still been 35%, I would clearly be like, hey, this is the way to go. But it's 30% versus Explosive Light around 25%. What I'm trying to say is, if you get a shiny roll and it has Cascade and Envious Assassin, but it has Explosive Light instead of Bait and Switch, don't delete it. Guys, don't be like, oh my God, this is garbage. Damn you, Bungie. Please, God, no. Keep that weapon. It is still phenomenal. Just because you're not getting that extra 5%, you're completely fine, guys. Keep it. But Cross, what about Full Court? Full Court is garbage. Stop using it. PvP is okay. Matter of fact, the PvP roll on this thing is Full Court, Impulse Amplifier, Proxy Nade, and anything bumping velocity. But let's be real, grenade launchers have really fallen off for us. I'm primarily using machine guns these days, and occasionally a sword. Now, there is another role, which was an interesting role, and that is Deconstruct Chain Reaction. By no means is this the meta, and I know some people are gonna be like, Cross, I cannot believe you're recommending Deconstruct. But Deconstruct states that dealing sustained damage grants bonus damage against vehicles, constructs, and refunds ammunition. Now, it's that last part, the refunding ammunition part. When you combine this with chain reaction and you're getting those AoE kills, you can do what I'm doing here at Shorochi and take 6 shots and clear out everything, which is pretty nice, guys. I'm not saying that you absolutely need to get this roll. Most people are like, who's using a grenade launcher for ad clearing? Please God, don't look at Hula Baloo. But in terms of ammo efficiency, no lie, this is actually a pretty solid one. And it really just comes down to ad density and what you're up against and how often you can, in fact, proc deconstruct. But that is some good synergy here, guys, that you can take advantage of. Next on the list, we have Succession. Let me just say this, nothing about Succession has excited me whatsoever, considering we have the craftable roll. But if you don't have the craftable roll, you cannot go wrong with things like Reconstruction or Lead from Gold and Firing Line. Discord is also present on here as a new one. And for my PvP players, Moving Target Snapshot is also pretty solid. Really though, this one's kind of a hard sell because at the end of the day, if you got the craftable roll, you're probably not going to be farming for this. Now, there was a combination that I came across, and that is redirection and Discord. Llama actually put up a video on this, and yeah, it did look good. Granted, keep in mind, in higher end content, it's definitely gonna be much harder to always guarantee that sniper kill, unless you're only killing rank and file enemies, which I know is pretty much the whole purpose of redirection. But with the combination of Discord, you can use your sniper rifle just to shred anything, because you're gonna be getting that ammunition right back, and every time you do so, you're giving yourself stacks of damage. And look, there's a play to be made here. An enhanced redirection is a lot better than base. So guys, just keep that in mind. If you come across a Discord roll with redirection on your Succession, just hang on to it. I know, you're probably like, Cross, I have no vault space. Are you for real right now? Just hold on to it for a second and let's see what happens when we can enhance this bad baby. Moving on, the final weapon that can drop from this week is Hung Jury. What an interesting scout rifle. Oh, I wanted it to be great, guys, because yes, on paper, it looked great. We have precision instruments and kinetic tremors. Precision instruments states that dealing sustained damage increases precision damage. And kinetic tremors states that sustained kinetic damage to a target emits a shockwave that damages any nearby targets. Now, I love kinetic tremors and I love precision instrument. Question that we had to ask, does precision instruments buff our kinetic tremor damage? Drum roll? No, it does not. Bungie, what the hell? I don't get it, guys. Could have been perfect, but unfortunately, that is not the case. The other roll that I wanted to try, and actually what I got, was Firefly and Kinetic Tremors. This is kind of a strange one because it doesn't really help in the proccing of Kinetic Tremors, but it is having 2 good perks together. Similar like Precision Instrument, but it does run into an issue of synergy. Kinetic Tremors itself can't exactly proc Firefly because a precision kill is what's needed, but they can proc at the same time, which means you can get like a double explosion. But again, this does require correct timing, which takes us to my one and final hope, explosive payload and kinetic tremors. Because explosive payload is area of effect damage, meaning it essentially hits twice. Does that mean we can proc kinetic tremors sooner? Turns out, no. If I'm hurting your feelings right now, I am so sorry, but this hurts me too. Unfortunately, despite explosive payload hitting multiple times, it does not proc kinetic tremors sooner. Still 6 hits, whether you're rocking explosive payload or not. With that being said though, I still think that kinetic tremors and explosive payload is a phenomenal trait combination. Really. Despite things like precision instruments and one for all and none of those damage buffs actually increasing the damage of kinetic tremors, I think there's still some play to be made there with those other perks. For instance, one for all, kinetic tremors hitting multiple targets can proc that trait. So even though kinetic tremors may not be getting its damage amplified, to me in that column, it's still the go-to option. But personally, I think I'm gonna go explosive payload, guys, and kinetic tremors. Now for my PvP players, look, you want to kill Guardians very fast, and you got a long-range map, box breathing all day long. You can actually do box breathing, no distractions, or box breathing rapid hit. Completely up to you. So guys, those are the 6 weapons that are dropping this week. We're going to start next with the Mountaintop, as well as Midnight Coup. These are the weapons that are going to be dropping the second week, which is the week of April the 16th. Keep in mind though, I haven't really played with these weapons because they're not in the game. We have messed around with Mountaintop and Luna's Howl, but that's still only the OG versions. But to start things off, let's talk about Mountaintop. Dude, I know it's gonna sound hysterical, but I'm looking at Impulse Amplifier and Frenzy. I know. Cross, what are you smoking? No lie, I just wanna see how fast that reload speed can be. We'll have Impulse Amplifier, which will increase our reload speed, at least initially. And then once Frenzy gets procced, now listen, are we talking like OG DPS from Mountaintop here? I highly doubt it. considering back then we literally had auto reloading. Now, as far as like a legitimate role, we've got auto loading holster, which is really nice for pretty much everything. For PvP, for running and gunning inside of PvE. You could do like Harmony or even Vorpal. Again, Vorpal is 15% on special weapons. You could do like a recombination roll with this, so that like as you're going and getting Recluse kills, you're stacking up those stacks of recombination. Boom, you pull it out. You blow your load at max damage. Now, one for all is also present here, but keep in mind, it kind of goes against auto loading. If I was to do a one for all roll, I would probably go like one for all lead from gold. That way I have enough ammunition. The other side of things is Demolitionist is also present here, as well as Ambitious Assassin. And considering Indomitability is our origin trait, you can see where the synergy is. So for my PvP players, I'm probably gonna go auto loading holster and Harmony. I think with that combination, which by the way, it also has sticky grenades, I should still be able to get the one-hit kill. We'll be doing testing on that. For my PvE players, it's very flexible, and it really just comes down to what you're doing. Auto loading holster is still great, especially for my speedrunners. For my folks leaning into your builds, Demolitionist, also fantastic. Lead from gold, great for ammo economy. But when I look at things like Ambitious Assassin and even Overflow, I have to question why I would use this over something like a Waveframe. To me, Mountaintop is for its individual damage, right? So in my opinion, you definitely want to lean into that. And a super shot from recombination, dude, I highly doubt we're gonna be able to go over there and like one shot a champion with a fully maxed out recombination roll. But I want to give it a go. I want to see if it's possible. And maybe even like an Ambitious Assassin recombination roll, or even an Overflow recombination roll. Get those max stacks, proc 2 shots one after another. It may just delete a champion. But again, more testing on that next week. The second weapon that will be dropping next week is Midnight Coup. Dude, the shiny version of this weapon looks so sexy. Look, for my PvP players, let me just say, I think this is going to be one of the best hand cannons in the game. You cannot go wrong with moving target opening shot or moving target Zen moments, both of which are going to serve you well. At the same time, explosive payload just got fixed. You're able to get the 3-tap, and I've been using explosive payload again on things like Rose. So you can go the routes of explosive payload opening shot or explosive payload Zen moments. Now I'm kind of leaning towards Zen because again, Zen requires multiple shots in order to reach the max benefits of Zen moments. All that flinch resistance, visual weapon shake, those require sometimes just one hit or even multiple hits. And for hand cannons, it's normally multiple hits, but explosive payload is technically multiple hits as it's literally splitting the damage. Now, to be quite honest with you, Zen moment is already a phenomenal trait. So I think you'll be okay either way. But yes, a Zen moment explosive payload roll with accurized rounds and hammer forge, that is what I'm going to be looking for. If I get a range masterwork, my God, we'll be cooking. Now for my PvE players. Now that we have established that Firefly and Kinetic Tremors, although a cool trait combination, doesn't necessarily synergize. Yes, you do get some double explosions at times. What is the best role here? I'm kind of leaning into the same thing as I said about Hung Jury. Explosive payload, Kinetic Tremors. Call me basic. But like Hung Jury, I think that combination is going to be very solid here. Are there other combinations? I mean, you got Shoot to Loot if you don't have a Shoot to Loot role. You could do Frenzy if you wish. Desperate Measures is also present here. Again, as we have established, it's a very good trait. Again, though, keep in mind, I said that while the weapon is stowed, you could proc this perk. But the first stack needs to be a weapon kill from that weapon. It's only until you get to the grenade and melee kills that you're able to proc the second and third stack while that weapon is stowed. So it has more ease of use than Golden Tricorn, and you can continually keep refreshing that buff. Now that is week 2. Moving on to week 3, which is the week of April the 23rd, we have Hammerhead and Forbearance. Now I'm gonna talk about Hammerhead real quick because it is clearly the best machine gun in the game. It is about to kill Commemoration. It is about to kill every machine gun you may have. There are so many great combinations here, guys, from Onslaught to Rampage together, which is nuts to me. You're getting a damage buff from that left column. You're getting an increase in rate of fire from Onslaught. Talk about ad clearing city. In terms of ammo economy though, you do have things like 4 times the charm, which is really nice. And yes, you can pair this with Onslaught. Desperate Measures is also present here if you're leaning into your subclass. Kill and Tally, which is a great perk that I like to use a lot on Commemoration, is also present here. And you can do Commemoration rewind rounds. But for me, I think the thing that makes this weapon so unique is that Onslaught Rampage roll. That right there is like, hey, let's get crazy, right? Let's go wild. Let's be the ad clearing fantasy machine gun you always wanted. Now, is there a play for this weapon to be a DPS powerhouse? Well, you do have Surrounded and rewind rounds, and I'm willing to give it a go. And we'll go inside a Templar, try it out. I highly doubt it's really gonna break the bank in terms of DPS, especially in comparison to some of our exotics, but I'm willing to try it. Surrounded is a very nice buff though, and Enhanced Surrounded will only be better. And that's the thing here, Enhanced everything is gonna be better. That Enhanced Rampage, Enhanced Onslaught in the final shape, oh, as soon as this weapon starts dropping, guys, I'm going to immediately attune it. I'm going to get Rampage, Onslaught, a Pendant Mag, which will kick up our magazine size to 68. I know, just shy of 69. Why, Bungie? Slap Actium War Rig with it, and we off, baby. The other side of things, though, is that this is a void weapon. Can you imagine a Rampage Onslaught roll with Gerfalcons? Mother of God. Very, very good weapon, guys. Next, we have Forbearance, another raid weapon. You may be asking yourself, Cross, why would I ever want to get this thing? I have to craft a roll at home. And fair enough, Ambitious Assassin Chain Reaction is still present here, but keep in mind, Chain Reaction is getting a nerf on specials. Will it be enough for me to put it down? Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see, right? On paper, it does look pretty rough, at least from what Chris Proctor talked about in his interview. You do have Golden Tricorn here, but Desperate Measures is also here. One for All, which is really easy to proc. But dude, it's so weird talking about this archetype without thinking of Chain Reaction. Like, that's literally Forbearance. Forbearance put Chain Reaction on waveframes. Like, that was what made it meta. That in combination with Ambitious Assassin is so good. So for my PvE players, if you don't have the craftable roll, I would still get this. It's iconic. Who knows how bad it's gonna be nerfed in the final shape, but at least give it a go. At least experience this power firsthand before getting nerfed. For my PvP players, use something else. Use Explosive Personality. That's a solid waveframe inside of PvP. Now, for the week of April the 30th, we have Blast Furnace. Now listen, we just talked about Elsie's rifle. Elsie's looks fantastic, but Blast Furnace is taking things a step further. Not only can you get Headseeker in the 3rd column, you can also pair it with another damage perk. You can go Headseeker and Kill Clip, which is crazy to me. We're talking about killing folks in like 1.5 bursts easily with Forgiveness. The range on this weapon is already impressive. Like, if you just had accurized rounds, nothing else. Like, for instance, if you were like, all right, I want to go Chambered Compensator for that stability and recoil direction, but accurized rounds. Guys, you're still talking over 40 meters of range. And maybe you want to go steady rounds. Maybe you're like, look, I've got Headseeker, but I need something helping me in the stability department. What can I do here? You can go steady rounds and say a perk like Small Bore, which will kick your stability up very high to like 86, which is probably going to make this weapon feel like a laser even without perks like Zim Moments. And you're talking close to 40 meters before you even start talking about the masterwork. Now keep in mind, you don't have to do Headseeker Kill Clip. You can still do Headseeker and Rapid Hit, which Rapid Hit on this archetype is really good considering it's a 4-round burst pulse rifle, which means if you land all crits, boom, you got 4 stacks. And I know someone's going to be like, well, Cross, that kind of defeats the purpose of Headseeker. Again, it's for those moments that you do happen to mess up and you do land those shots that are body shots, is those follow-up crit shots that will be doing more damage. Blast Furnace was a force to be reckoned with. I hope it is going to be as good as it was back during Black Armory. It's supposed to have the Rasmussen sight, which was our favorite scope. We'll see though, guys. We'll give it a go inside of PvP, and I hope it's just as deadly. Now for my PvE players, Kinetic Tremors is also present here, which is pretty interesting considering this is a 4-round burst weapon. That means within 3 bursts, you should be proccing Kinetic Tremors, which is really fast. It's 4 bursts for other weapons. And you've got Kinetic Tremors, Frenzy. I think that's a good combination here for this pulse rifle. And I'm willing to give it a go inside of PvE. One for All is also present here though. Again, Kinetic Tremors should assist in proccing that. I know everybody's gonna think I'm boring because I always choose Kinetic Tremors. But dude, it's like one of the main perks that makes Kinetics worth using over their energy counterparts. Just think about it. Energy weapons have so much synergy with subclasses, and that's not gonna get any better with Prism. We're gonna have even more synergy. So for me, like, the main point of using a kinetic weapon is for something like Kinetic Tremors, and I think that's the way to go here for Blast Furnace. Now, the final weapon on this list, Luna's Howl. Guys, Luna's Howl has had its rework to Magnificent Howl that we just went over earlier. Now, Luna's Howl is still a precision frame hand cannon, but it shoots at 140 rounds per minute. You've got a lot of great options inside of PvP though. Magnificent Howl, Slide Shot, Eye of the Storm, Magnificent Howl. And I know you're probably like, Cross, why are you not talking about any of these other perks? You've got Precision Instrument, you've got Opening Shot, you've got Kill Clip, but I want Magnificent Howl. Again, the number of precision Final Blows before reloading affects the total rounds granted with increased range and damage. And Precision Final Blows with Mag Howl active extends the effect for additional rounds. The question that I'm wondering, the thing that we need to test, does Slide Shot allow us to continue this buff? That to me, for both PvE and in PvP, Slide Shot, Magnificent Howl is what I'm going to be going for. See, again, guys, it stacks up to 10 times, and each stack grants one bullet with 50% damage, as well as extra range. And precision kills with the buff active adds 1 stack. So you see what I'm saying here? You can use something like Slide Shot to top off the ammo and continue those stacks. Continue adding it with every precision kill. That is the question we must answer with Magnificent Howl and Luna's Howl when we get Slide Shot added on this random roll. This is going to be the weapon I'm going to be racing toward as soon as it starts dropping. Yes, Incandescent exists on it. Kill Clip also exists here, which is a phenomenal trait. great, and I love Hill Clip, but it's that slide shot and magnificent combo that I must know more about. So guys, that's it. That is our God roll overview, and again, this is the calendar for all the weapons that are going to be dropping over the next month. If there are any God rolls that I missed, feel free to comment them down below, and yes, we will be taking those comments and doing individual reviews of each one of these weapons, especially on the trait combinations that are truly unique and stand out the most. So be looking out for those. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.